Hi there, I'm Shelby from the College of Law, and today I'm talking to Anna from the University of Canterbury Law Student Society. So, welcome, Anna. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
How's it going down in Christchurch?
Good. Yeah, it's good. We're on a bit of a study break at the moment, so chipping away, but had a great start to the year and yeah, very thankful to be on only level 1 or maybe 2 down here thus far. So it's been going well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a different sort of, I suppose, week and start to the year than it was for you all last year, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. No, it was tentative postponements and things like that, but everything got underway. So we're really happy with that. Yeah.
Yeah, a hard reality is that we kind of have to plan every event in 3 different eventuations, don't we?
Yeah, yeah. Plus the online eventuation as well. So it's
Yeah, makes your job nice and fun. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, part of the reason we've got here today is that you do have a very unique perspective, actually, on the whole legal profession. Today is really just time to hear that perspective from you, hear a little bit about the student ideas about what's happening in the profession. It's been a pretty disruptive year, the last year for the profession, as most of us have had. So I'd maybe start with any kind of reflections you've had on what's been happening and what you've learned.
Oh, I think primarily for me, it's been the importance of, from a student perspective, but probably also from working in the field, social interaction and socializing in the workplace and at university. Definitely having that lockdown period and shifting everything online made you kind of realize I definitely need to get along to that lecture or get along to that tutorial. Especially any type of group assignments or things like that. There's a lot of those coming up and popping up everywhere because I think people are far more collaborative now, having had that time to be very much in themselves, is something I've noticed. Yeah.
It's interesting that we almost had to completely disengage with everyone to realize how much we need the social engagement, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and just how much it benefits kind of everything, especially learning and kind of staying inspired with your degree and with the profession and things like that. You definitely need people around you who are pushing you and you're pushing yourself. Yeah.
It can be a hard one sitting in home by yourself on a computer, trying to keep that motivation and that resilience up to sort of push through, especially in the middle of winter. But
Yeah.
we've done a hard part. Now it's more, I suppose, trying to think about what that means going forward. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Is there a bit of a feeling on campus about how everyone's sort of treating this year, and if they're a bit nervous about what it's going to look like, or?
I think it depends on what stage you're at. I think I've definitely noticed with some of the younger students that they've kind of had that first year of university or jumping into those 200 levels online. So that's definitely a big shift, all of a sudden kind of coming back to big 300 people lectures. But for the more senior students, I think we're just really enjoying being back on campus. So it's less of a culture shift and it's more of a going back to how it was. But yeah, no, it definitely depends on the stage you're at. People are struggling or finding it a lot easier.
So some of you have probably just gone through the whole grad recruitment drive as well and getting all that done.
Yes, yeah, that's been the past couple of months. So some are still open, some are opening, most have closed. So that's very ongoing. But no, that's a very exciting time, I think, for people. And a lot of places come onto campus and you can kind of get to know better and make your decisions from there. But yeah, definitely a bit stressful on top of work.
Do you think there's been many perceptions change with sort of students about what is important for an employer over the last year as they've sort of gone through all these difficult things in their lives throughout COVID?
I think in a way, a lot of people might have kind of dropped some commitments or picked up others or prioritized different things. And so I think from what I can gauge from employers, it's just about owning what stage you're at now and kind of saying this was the year that I had, if it was a difficult year or if it was a great year. And I think just fronting that. Something I've definitely noticed is employers are just wanting to meet people. So I think people, especially when you're stuck in a room on a laptop, put far too much emphasis on, this assignment or this essay or this exam, which is definitely very easy to do when you're in a room on a computer and no one else is there. But as soon as it becomes centralized back on campus, people get a lot more confidence in themselves as a person. And I think just, having the confidence to put themselves out there, and that's what people employ at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I find myself even, we've never met in person, but trying to keep up a social engagement sometimes can be a completely different experience online.
Mm.
And I mean, I don't know, at least you have another whole year of it. That must have been really difficult for those students last year who went straight into grad programs completely online. Like trying
Yeah.
to build those social relationships with your cohorts above you when you've never met any of them and you're trying to ask for help and engage in a whole new area of law. It must be really difficult.
Yeah, for sure. I was in a flat last year with 3 other law students, and one of them had a pre-interview function on Zoom, and she said, "Everyone, you have to be quiet. I'm at my function." And it was just the most bizarre thing during level 3. We're all like, "Right, well, hush up, you enjoy your function." But yeah, putting each other into breakout rooms to socialize, and just a very bizarre world. So I think everyone's very excited to put themselves out there in person.
Yeah. Actually be physically present as well as like mentally is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see a lot of jokes online these days about people who are introverts who enjoyed it, but I think part of us all kind of miss that little social engagement that just really pushes us forward in some things.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah.
I suppose if you thinking about the whole legal profession in general, is there any sort of big challenges you've seen that you think they're sort of still overcoming as part of what's happened over the last year, or just in general, I suppose, as well?
I think I think going on moving forward as well, I think it'll just be an ongoing challenge of people balancing their kind of like working at home or working at work. I think that that was less of a thing that was done prior to COVID, and now obviously it's quite normalized. But you have a workplace of 50 people and 25 want to be there and 25 would happily not. So it's kind of, I guess, the challenge is really embracing that it is something that can be done working from home, but how do we kind of balance it in a way that still socializes the workplace and kind of sees collaborative stuff being done. But yeah.
I suppose the whole nature of the word collaboration's kind of changed, hasn't it, really?
Yeah, completely. I think even I've noticed with various things where you used to kind of have meetings, it's now very much like an email, a group chat, and it's done. And in some ways, that's really effective because meetings for the sake of meetings probably do everyone's head in. But in other ways, you kind of think, oh, I definitely needed to be clearer on that. I needed 5 minutes to just flesh it out. So yeah, I think everywhere at university and all workplaces, and especially in the law, I think that the collaboration aspect will be a challenge, shifting more online and people working from home or not being in the office all the time for sure.
It almost has required us to sort of take a very big approach, I suppose, to how we look at people's ways of working. Like it
Mm.
used to be, the way of working here is that we do everything by email or we do everything in person. And there's probably been a lot of that being flipped on the head, and it's probably been the same with university. Talking about those group assignments, I imagine there were students that just love to sit down in a room together and nut it all out in a day. And there's some people who prefer to have the Google Doc where they just worked away on it independently. Now we've got to kind of work around everyone's ways of working, really, haven't we?
Yeah, and I think the default now is to not even kind of have that in person in the first place, because I think there was that period of just going nowhere or no one. It was very much you get the assignment, you see who's in your group, and you kind of just go from there online. So it definitely is changing in that way, which can be quite effective in some ways, but a lot of people, just enjoy kind of getting and chatting it out, and their learning progresses way better with kind of talking and seeing other people.
Socializing is a big element of learning.
Yeah.
I suppose flipping it on its head then, what about some of the sort of opportunities? You've kind of touched on a couple of them in terms of the flexible working, but anything else you can kind of think of?
I think something I've noticed recently actually has been during recruitment, the type of opportunities that has kind of emerged from that, having people have online kind of webinars or a lot of online interviews prior to interviews, things like that, where you can kind of, a lot of firms are getting you to submit like videos instead of cover letters, things like that, which is really cool, which probably wouldn't have been so much of a thing in previous years from what I could gauge as well. So I think utilising technology a lot more in processes allows people to, feel like it's a bit more involved than otherwise just submitting off a letter and a CV and never hearing from it, or, getting an email 2 weeks later saying thanks, but no thanks. So yeah, I think firms are becoming a lot more tangible and people are able to kind of put themselves out via technology.
Yeah, it's almost put the human back into the recruitment process, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess weird because you're not in person, but I
No.
think that allowing you to humanize yourself before meeting them it's I don't know, it's quite nice. And I get the feeling that I'm going into an interview with them having already kind of seen my disposition and how I interact through that online interview and things like that.
Yeah, especially I suppose there's a certain amount of engagement that happens with clients now in that forum, and that's almost a sort of test in itself of can you do this and are you ready for it?
Mm. Yeah, no, definitely.
So last sort of one to throw at you is any advice that you'd give people in your position going through recruitment, doing grad, sort of, any things about the industry or,
I think advice I probably would have given myself, so I'd like to kind of, give other people, is you just need to, I think, progress yourself so much as you are progressing your learning. I've definitely found that throughout university, some of the most, like, the better points of my learning was where I was practically applying things. So any opportunity you have to do that, if it's like competitions and things like that, I think people should definitely get involved. Any kind of like study groups, actually, yeah, socializing your learning and kind of progressing yourself so that you have a personality you can put forward. Because I think there'd be nothing worse than getting into a workplace and feeling like you got there not as yourself, and kind of being stuck in that shell. So that's something I've definitely learned. Still working on, but in the past couple of years, it's defining what success means to you and kind of just like progressing your own person. Yeah.
I really like that. Progressing yourself. We've actually been having a lot of conversations here about what success looks like for us, and we deal with so many different students, and it is true. Everybody has a different way of looking at things, and it's really refreshing to hear someone just be so open and honest about the fact that they're still working on it too, because it is a constant thing that you do work at. So
Yeah, definitely.
thanks, Annie.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you again for your time today. It was really good to ever hear hear a different perspective and some refreshing ideas and seeing what's you're the future of the profession one day. So thank you.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
Cool. Thanks, Anna.
So yeah.